Sexism: prejudice, stereotyping, or discrimination on the basis of sex. It's present in all of our lives, sometimes even going unnoticed. People dismiss sexist comments as jokes, or regard them as commonplace and normal in our society. But do we really want to live in a society that considers rape, objectifying people, victim blaming, and unrealistic expectations based on your sex normal?
You may think to yourself, well, that's awful, but it doesn't affect me. We are here to tell you that it does. What if someone in your household is negatively affected by the wage gap? That will affect your family's life and income. If anyone in this room has a sister that has been catcalled and objectified, it affects you. If anyone has a brother that is expected to conform to unrealistic standards because he needs to be a man, it affects you. If anyone has family members or friends that will go to college and end up in a situation where they are raped, but they deserved it because of how they acted or how they dressed, it affects you.
Anyone could be in this situation of sexism. It is a problem.
You might also think that, well, it doesn't happen in our community, but it does. Recently, the Iowa Supreme Court made a decision that blamed a woman for a man's lustful desires. James Knight terminated Melissa Nelson because he found her irresistibly attractive. At no point in the case did he admit that she wasn't conducting herself in a sexual or unprofessional manner, flirted, or was suggestive in any way. The only time she came close to being unprofessional or deserving of being fired was when she sent some non-sexual text messages. His grounds for firing her was to preserve his marriage. She was blamed for ruining or hurting his relationship, even though they were never involved romantically or sexually in any way. The state Supreme Court thought that was composed of entirely men, voted that he was acting within his legal right to fire her because of this irresistible attraction. According to the justice, such actions fall within legal bounds because they are motivated by feelings and emotions rather than on the basis of gender. This story is just one of many of victim blaming, where a victim gets blamed for the action that is taken against them, or they were asking for it. She was too pretty, so she got fired. What if this was your wife, daughter, or sister? Then how would you feel?
Sexism is normally thought to be the problem of women being treated unequally, but the problem of sexism extends to males as well. Many times, as men, we are held to unrealistic standards that place us and others at risk. How many times have you heard the words, suck it up, and just be a man? These are examples of the gender roles that are placed upon men, shaming them into doing things like lifting self-endangering amounts in the weight room and breaking the law on the street just to race your friend and prove yourself. This is a huge problem in society because we have created a gender role for men that do stupid and careless things in order to seem cool and tough. One example of these societal standards happened very close to home. There has been a reported instance in our conference where a high school has disregarded safety rules required by state football practices, and a coach required his players to practice in hazardous conditions, and when questioned about this instance, the head coach replied, telling the young high school players to, quote, just be men. The players didn't dare fight against their head coach because the risk of not being able to play and the social pressure on them was too tough, and they were forced to stick it out.
For a school as social justice focused as Grinnell College, it isn't exactly the type of place you would expect bias-motivated incidents of hatred like the one that occurred on May 4th, 2010. The party was called Cunnilingus and involved drinking jello out of bowls labeled with the names of female members of the Grinnell College community. On the bowls were written derogatory language that included racist, ableist, and misogynistic terms. One female sophomore received a phone call Thursday from Student Affairs notifying her that she was named on 2 bowls.
The one that was truly insulting was a racial slur,
she said.
It's hard knowing that it comes from some people that you have considered yourself very close with, and have had classes with these people, and hung out in social situations with some of these people.
These weren't just random unnamed aggressors. These were people that should have been their friends. To combat the hurtful targeting of individuals and sexism that so clearly had become a big issue at Grinnell, Feminist Action Coalition put up welcoming messages across campus to show support for people who may have been made to feel unsafe.
You wouldn't think that in a town the size of Grinnell, in a place like Iowa, you would have problems with catcalling. I mean, I thought that too, until it happened to me. More than once. There was this specific instance this year when I went to the gym alone one night. I had just got done with my workout, was feeling pretty good, had my earbuds in, and was just bumping to some music as I opened the door to the street. And just as I opened that door, a car full of boys, probably in their early 20s, drove by. I was just listening to my music, and suddenly this car slows down, and I hear things like, "Damn, look at that ass," and "Oh yeah," and other things I couldn't hear because my headphones were in. I tried as hard as I could to stay calm and didn't make eye contact with them, for fear they'd seen I'd actually heard and acknowledged them. So I quickly walked to where my car was parked and hopped in, hoping they hadn't noticed as they had driven past and were stopped at a stop sign. Instead of turning right or left from that stop sign, they instead pulled straight ahead into what were parking spaces and backed up, coming back the way they had just been. My heart was beating at an even higher rate than what it had been when working out just a couple minutes before then. Thank the Lord it was dark out. It was because of that they didn't see me in my car. I don't even want to think about what those 3+ boys would have done if they'd seen me again, a teenage girl alone in the night. And the worst thing about that night is that they made me feel bad for wearing short shorts and doing and looking the way I did. They thought they were boosting my confidence, but in reality, they harmed it a great deal.
Sometimes eliminating sexism seems like an unrealistic goal, but there are a lot of ways that you can help. Some big ways are to join a peaceful protest like the Women's March, or organize a petition for equal pay. Other little ways to help are to join Feminism Club, speak out when you hear sexist comments or objectification, and inform others about rape culture and violence by sharing this information with them.